coming in and going out from right here in Chicago. Now, it wasn't until 1790 that we had our first non-native resident. Behind me here, this is DuSable Harbor. We've recently renamed Lakeshore Drive DuSable Lakeshore Drive, all in honor of this guy born in the 1700s in Haiti. His name, Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable. So right from the very beginning, everybody who lives here came from somewhere else, unless you're a Native American. That's true of my own personal story. My father originally from Greece. My mother born here, but a few generations back, her ancestors were from Ireland. They met here in this city of immigrants, and I'll tell you what, I'm pretty glad they did. So I like to keep that in mind as we go under DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Now, you'll see we're going to go under a lot of bridges on our tour here today. And one of the nice things about that is the bridges act as curtains on different sections of the river. So as we go under DuSable Lakeshore Drive, I'm going to let the curtain go up on the architecture and let the buildings speak for themselves. The St. Regis here, designed by a superstar architect. Her name is Jeannie Gang. Jeannie Gang, born and raised right around here, Chicagoland area. She went off to Harvard, won a MacArthur Genius Grant, certified genius, Jeannie Gang. Now, this is the third tallest building in Chicago. However, it is the tallest building in the world, designed by a female-led architectural firm. So we're very proud of that. Yeah, give it up for that. Shane, in case how old the building is. That reflective glass lets you know that's a newer building. This building from 2009. Now look up the sides of the building. You'll see there are these patio setbacks. Each of those are at the heights of some of the other buildings around it. This lowest one, where it says Trump, at the same height as that wedding cake of a building over here on the right, not counting the clock tower, Bible style, from the early 1920s. Now, that begs a question. Why are we building buildings that look like Spanish cathedrals in Chicago in the early 1920s? Well, remember, everybody that's here is from somewhere else back at the beginning of the country, right, at the city. So we're still borrowing standards of beauty from Europe. Now, like I told you, this right here was where that log cabin was that DuSable built back in the 1790s, right here on the river. Now, you might ask yourself, why did he build it so far inland from the lake? Well, he didn't. Back in the 1790s, the lake came all the way up to Michigan Avenue. Everything we've passed so far on the tour is all built on top of landfill. If you were here in 1790, a speakeasy for Al Capone during the 1920s as well, because you could drive right in and your car wouldn't be out on the street. But we don't know if that's true. Now, as we jump all over in time, right, 1790s, 1920s, 2009, now we're heading into the groovy 1960s. Take a look at the corncob towers here on our right. These are Marina City, very iconic buildings here in Chicago, designed by Bertrand Goldberg. Bertrand Goldberg, a bit of a social scientist, trying to change the way that people live. Back in the 1960s, not a lot of people lived downtown. They would come to work here, they'd go home to the suburbs. So Bertrand Goldberg built Marina City as a city within the city to get people to move downtown. Apartments up above, valet parking down below, and inside the building there are stores, restaurants, fitness center, ice skating rink, bowling alley. Used to have a movie theater in there, which is now the House of Blues. In 2000, this is a great example of a positive loop. As more folks come down to the river, the more interested they are in keeping the river clean. And as the river gets cleaner and cleaner, the more people come down and visit, and that just keeps getting better and better. And guess what? You're some of those people. So we're glad to have you here on the river today. We're going to talk more about the Riverwalk later. But right now, on the other side of this bridge, you'll see this building covered with reflective glass. I want you to follow it up to the top and take a look at the triangles that you'll see up at the top of it. Now, these triangles are reminiscent of Greek or Roman temples. They call that classical architecture, but with the reflective glass, you know this is a newer building from the 1900s. So we call this style. So take a look at the builder's building here on the left. It's the one that changes about 3/4 of the way down. That's because the front part of the building is from the 1920s, that annex and the roof were added in the 1980s. Now look at the section from the 80s. You'll see it doesn't exactly copy what's come before. It's built with modern materials and in a modern technique, but you'll see it is inspired by the older section of the building. So as we come out from underneath the bridge, compare and contrast some of the similarities and differences in this building that stands between the 1920s and the 1980s. Once you're done taking a look at this building, we're straight in front of us. This building in front of it is called River Point, right? That makes sense. But because of the parabolic arches on the top and bottom of the building, some folks say it looks like the box your microwave Hot Pockets in. They call it the Hot Pocket building because of that. That arch at the bottom is to make way for a train line that continues down all the way on this side of the river. We're going to talk more about that train line later. But right now, I told you most of the buildings here are built in just the last few years. This one to your right, going up right in front of your eyes, it won't be finished until next year. But the next building we're going to talk about is this peachy pink building, South Branch, because we've got a lot more cool buildings to show you down there. When we do, I'll tell you more about these bridges. But right now, here's another example of changing attitudes towards the river. Take a look at the East Bank Club here on our right. This is a high-end fitness center built in the 1980s, back when the river was still pretty polluted. So you can see we're looking at the back. This bridge used to service the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper. They would bring newsprint in across this bridge. For you younger folks, newspapers. You used to pay for yesterday's news. Ask your parents about it. They'll explain it to you. But as we head into Old Point, no one's quite sure where that name came from. There's some myths around it. One story we just don't know which came first is that, about 200 years ago, this was the center of the city around this Y shape because there were taverns on each of these shores. One over there, one right here, and one right here. This one had a painting of a wolf over the front door. We just swampland all throughout here, trees as far as the eye could see, and some of those original structures were log cabins, right? So imagine that would act as a natural boundary to protect downtown. But remember I told you about how polluted this waterway was back in 1871? There was so much hog fat on the surface of the river from those stockyards. It literally caught on fire. Someone's garage today. Does a whole city burn down? No, right? What's going on there? 1871, Mrs. O'Leary's cow, poor immigrant woman's animal. Do you think they were looking for somebody to blame? Maybe a scape cow? Would you like to hear the real cause of the Great Chicago Fire? All right, that's what you asked for. A world-class city after the fair, but it's with beauty as a guiding star that we end up with the city you see before you here tonight. That's our origin story of Chicago. Thanks for letting me share that with you folks. Now, I know you guys are taking a look at all the cool buildings we passed on the way down on the South Branch. Not to worry, we're going to talk about them all right now. This one probably caught your eye. Does that look like anything we've seen before? Remember Marina City, right? Oh, hello. Hi. Enjoy your evening. A queen, a king, that's not good enough for us here in Chicago. We also have a goddess as part of our skyline. See that statue over there to the right? On top of a building with soaring vertical lines, that guy's at the top. Art Deco building that's a 1930s statue of Ceres, the Roman goddess of agriculture. Now, that begs a question. Why are we building statues of Roman goddesses here in Chicago in the 1930s? Well, remember, this is the heartland of the USA. All of the farmers around here bringing their goods into Chicago to be bought and sold at our stock where cereal or cerveza comes from. Now, cutting back over the Queen, the building straight ahead of us from the 1990s. Those cylinders on the top were so bright when the building first opened. It was confusing migratory to leave your house to shop. Not so popular today. Sure enough, Sears is no longer in the building. A company by the name of Willis has rented out a few floors and also leases the naming rights. So you look at a map of Chicago, it'll read Willis Tower, but if you ask folks that are from here, we're a little nostalgic, a little stubborn. We keep calling it Sears. I know it's confusing for folks from out of town. Very simple explanation. See, it's spelled Willis, it's pronounced Sears. It's folks on the metric system. That is not in the Trump Tower. That is designed by the architect. It's a decorative detail included in the height. Now, you're going to get a great view of the Sears Tower from its base over here on the. These are just about 300 feet tall. That's how tall the antennas are on top of the Sears Tower. Yeah. Yeah, you get every channel with that. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. Cities competing for the fair, and some of them accused us of exaggerating what we were going to do for that fair. They called us the Windy City of Chicago, and that's where the nickname came from. We've got a lot of nicknames, though. Second City's another one. We used to be second biggest in population in the U.S. We're now third. We're also the second city we rebuilt after the fire. Some other ones I told you about. Hog Butcher to the World. That's one of my favorites. City of Big Shoulders. City that works. We're a very hard-working town here in Chicago. Chi-Town for short.